shakele love. See love when I wanna get another one, I go take and do it in I love. Waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do and with all my heart, oh. Go no be vodka. Mr. Money Changer. But when I know I know the ways that Mr. I want to the year with people they love. Want to get a shakele love. See love when I wanna get another one, I go take and do it in I love. Waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do and with all my heart, oh. Go no be vodka. Mr. Money Changer. But when I know the ways that Mr.
Ghana, we now have freedom.
For many people, conversations around the fight for independence in Ghana are generally dominated by the efforts of the men. But there are some unsung heroes, the women.
Women have always been part of every form of history that was made in this world because they are the ones who have the ability to garner masses for a cause. Ironically, somehow women always have also been written out of history. And it's not a Ghanaian problem, it's an international problem. Worldwide, women constantly have been written out of history.
Indeed, there were many women involved in the fight for independence at different stages.
From Rebecca Dede Ayite to Ikuya Shoshosho to Tegu Kwakupong. Tegu Kwakupong is very well known as a woman who was very wealthy and successful market woman.
By 1940, Agnes Tegu Kwakupome was already a well-known trader, even becoming the first Makola woman to open an account at the then Standard Bank of West Africa.
She was also one of the women who funded, again, CPP's movement.
The two met and became close friends when Nkrumah had to live at her place for a period following his arrival from the United Kingdom to take up the position of General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention. Through her initiatives, Nkrumah was able to talk to the market women to join the freedom fight at meetings held at the various marketplaces.
Somebody like Hannah Kujo played a huge role when the whole concept of civil disobedience started as a way of being defiant and fighting for independence when they refused to buy from the European shops at the time.
She is said to have met Nkrumah when he stayed at their house on a trip to Takwa.
When the Big Sis were arrested, she was a person that actually rallied people to go on demonstrations for the British to release the Big Sis.
Mabel Dove Dankwa, she was a journalist. She had a very loud and prominent voice.
Mabel was already writing under a pseudonym called Akosua Jatri, but also started writing for the Accra Evening News, which was a paper for the CPP.
In her writings, she spoke against colonialism and encouraged women to fight for their rights. In the line of her work, she met, fell in love, and married J.B. Dankwa, a member of the Big Six.
And then you had Rebecca Dede Ayite, who was a very young woman but had a lot of money because of her flower business.
She has been popularly known as Dede Ashikinsha, and Ashikinsha is flour in Ghana. And she was one of the market women who funded some of the CPP's activities. But not only that, but she used existing marketing channels as a communication tool for CPP.
To think that she died at 38 in 1961, if you do the math, you see how young she was in acknowledging her efforts towards independence, made it to the 50 pesos coin.
Theodosia Salome Oko is famous for designing the flag of Ghana following its independence from Britain. There was a call for a design to represent the flag of the country. Oko submitted hers, which was selected by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
There's a special place in my heart for the
All right, viewers, it's yet another Saturday afternoon, and we welcome you to Political Justice, where we do justice to most of the topical issues that come up in our dear country, Ghana. Um, this afternoon, I'm here as usual with my panelist, Zita Seshi, a sociologist in Canada. And then somebody joining us for the first time is Dr. Bernard Akalbion, who is an economist based in Atlanta. So, I mean, Bernard, okay, your video is not on yet, but anyways, so today we're going to talk about. All right, so welcome.
Bernard. At least it's good to have an economist on the panel, because you guys got me stressed out preparing. I'm like, guys, see the depreciation. I'm a sociologist. Give me economy, give me religion, give me marriage and family, give me social structure, all these economic stuff. All I know is it's hurting in my pocket to send money home. So I'm happy to see Bernard, and I hope you become a permanent member of this team.
Well, you're muted, Bernard.
Hey, Dr. Zita. Hey, and then Dr. Agana, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're excited.
Yeah, I'm pleased to be here. Let's get right into it. Let's see how we can help our country through discourse. Sometimes, maybe when they hear some of these things, they'll listen to us. So hopefully it gets where we want it to get to.
Bernard, as somebody who's continuously been dragged on TikTok for the past 2 months, I'm telling you, do what you gotta do, but don't be too optimistic. Do what you gotta do to conscientize the masses, but do not be too optimistic. That's all I can say.
Yep. Well
Yeah,
taken.
I mean, most countries are built on ideas, right? And so we are here to contribute our bit. And, there's a popular saying that, what's the good of knowledge if you are not putting it to the popular use? So in as much as people go to war and sacrifice their bodies for the betterment of their country, if we have acquired the knowledge, we ought to, give it out to make our countries better, right? So it's not necessarily for our own well-being and professional well-being, but we dedicate our Saturday afternoons to having conversations about things happening in Ghana for the sole purpose of making the country a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this afternoon we just have a few issues to talk about. I mean, not that we lack things to talk about, but we are running short on time. So, first of all, we talk about the depreciation of the city. The current Deputy Minister of Finance made some comments that we would listen to in respect of the depreciation of the city. Then we move on to this whole issue of sole sourcing. It's often viewed as a predicate for corruption. People in positions of power who decide on where contracts should go would normally rely on sole sourcing to give contracts to their favored, contractors. And we'll talk about a recent issue that just emerged in respect of the use of sole sourcing. Recently, there was a meeting of CEOs in Ghana, and they invited ex-President Mahama and the sitting vice president. They gave speeches during this meeting, and we have just short clips of some of the things that came up in the speech of former President Mahama and then the sitting vice president. And we'll play both speeches, and then it will lead us into a discussion of the issues that they raised in their conversation, right? So I think we'll first of all begin with the issue of the cedi. It affects our pocketbooks, right? It's basically inflation, but the economist here will tell us. But so let's start off by playing the video by the sitting, I think he's a deputy minister of finance, right? Stephen Amwa. Yeah. So let's play Stephen Amwa's position on the depreciation of the cedi, and then but no, before I even do that, let's see him first here.
The poor. You should think about the poor. Of mine, and you're Ghana, then it's very painful. We won't pass it. Whatever they want to do, we will pass it at the right time. They can't do anything. We are in government. If they claim it will make us unpopular, why wouldn't they stop?
Okay, so this was Stephen Amwa when he was, the first video was in opposition, crying for the betterment of Ghana. And the second one was when they were in power and trying to pass the e-levy. He seemed to have gotten some energy during the period that they were in power. Well, let's hear him as the sitting deputy minister of finance.
Importer-driven economy. We'll be having problems with the city because we import almost everything. But inshallah, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, next year if he comes, we're going to design a lot.
Even with the depreciating cedi?
Cedi. This is the first time cedi. Who acquired what you are wearing, didn't we import? We imported this, we imported that. Cedi depreciation is a ritual problem. I agree with you. It's not because of one particular government. Unless one is suffering from unconscious incompetence or displaying intellectual dishonesty, that will say that cedi depreciation is MPP government. It's an issue that has nationalistic, or that needs nationalistic attention. That one I agree. But it's not, so far we keep on being in importer-driven economy. We'll be having problems with the cedi because we import almost everything. But inshallah, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, next year if he comes, we're going to design a long-term framework to deal with the cedi. Trust me.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with our economist. What do you think about the situation of the cedi as we currently know it? Right, it's risen to about 15 cedi to $1.
Yes.
So Bernard, just give us a general background. I mean, enlighten us before we tackle Stephen Amwa as a person.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agana, for this opportunity. And like I was saying, Dr. Zita, I'm highly honored to be in such company. I used to watch the show, or I've been watching the show. My brother has been trying to get me to come on the show, but I've just been too busy. And I'm grateful that today I was able to make some time to jump on today. Now, to even begin with, our Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Stephen Amwa, let me issue a disclaimer. I really like him as a person. I do, because of the kind of energy that he exudes. The fact that he kind of tries to bring the street into politics, that is something that I think it's a unique niche. I think there are videos of him sharing Jama with people at University of Ghana. And, he's just that kind of person. But what I find worrying is the hypocrisy when it comes to this government, right? They only know that the dollar or the depreciation of the cedi is a ritual problem when NDC is in power. And that is something that I find a bit disingenuous. Fine, you are saying that the exchange rate depreciation is a ritual problem. I agree with you. But why is it that these semantics only come into play when it's the NDC that is in power? That is the question that I would like to ask him. If I was face to face with him today, that's the question that I was going to ask him. Everything that he said in that video is the truth. It's nothing but the truth. Now, let's go to the flag bearer of their party, the NPP. He made a statement some years ago that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rates will expose you. Doc, are you showing something on screen that we need to have a look at?
Well, are you seeing what's on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I know you keep going. I will bring up a question based on what's on the screen.
Yes. Okay.
But yes.
So he said something so many years ago that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Of course, that's a true statement in economics. And I also need to issue a disclaimer here that economics is still the truth. And every true practitioner of the science called economics, when done properly, is going to see the results in play. And let me clearly state here that our current vice president and the flag bearer of the MPP party used to be a very fine economist, no doubt about that. But the system has taken the economist out of him and made him a total politician. And that is what I'm here to address today. I'm not attacking him by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to take him by his word, everything that he said. I'm going to give the background, examine everything that he said or said in the past, and then we'll see how those statements aged. Did they age well or they did not age well? Okay. Starting with, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. That is a very true statement in all of economics. And the reason is the exchange rate is tied to every facet of the economy. Talk about business cycle fluctuations, talk about unemployment, talk about inflation. Everything is tied to the exchange rates. Nothing, all these concepts that I mentioned, right? All these macroeconomic variables that I mentioned, none of them is in isolation. All these variables play out and they determine what we call the exchange rate, the exchange rates level or the exchange rate. Now, let's go into what determines the exchange rate. Normally, when we hear of the exchange rates, we are talking about the nominal exchange rates, right? And there's also the real exchange rate.
Can you break it down with nominal? These are unfamiliar terms to the ordinary person. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So there's the real exchange rate and there's the nominal exchange rate. But normally when we hear about exchange rate in Ghana, to the average Ghanaian, we are talking about the nominal exchange rate. Now, this is real exchange rate. Let's say that we are comparing a car in the US, right? The value of a car in the US to the value of a car in Ghana. Or, cars are not manufactured in Ghana, so that's a bad example. Let's talk about Japan and then the US. So if the value of a car in the US is equal to the value of two cars in Japan, then the real exchange rate in that situation is 1:2. And we are calling it real because it involves actual commodities. That is the first one. Nominal exchange rate, on the other hand, has to do with comparing the values of two currencies. How much it will cost you using 1 unit of one currency to get maybe a predefined unit of another currency. That is the nominal exchange rate. So whenever we hear about nominal, we are talking about currency. When we talk about real, we are talking about real commodities. Now, I'm just going to go a little bit into economics. There's a direct relationship between the nominal exchange rate and the real exchange rate. So nominal exchange rate is equal to the real exchange rate multiplied by the inverse of the price system between the two countries. So if we are talking about Ghana and the US, we are going to talk about the real exchange rates between the two countries, and then we multiply that by the ratio of the prices of the foreign country to the domestic country. Let's set out the parameters properly. Whenever you hear me mention domestic, I'm a Ghanaian, so domestic is Ghana for me. So we are talking about the price system in the US relative to the price system in Ghana. And like Doc, you mentioned from the beginning of this intro, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, that part of the equation that I just spelled out, the ratio of the price systems, that is nothing but inflation. So inflation directly determines the interest rates. So if there's an increase in the foreign exchange rate relative to what is happening in Ghana, then we can expect an appreciation in the exchange rates. But then if the relationship is the reverse, such that we are seeing an increase in the inflation of the domestic country, then the exchange rate or the nominal exchange rate is going to depreciate, is going to come down. And in the case of Ghana, that is exactly what we are seeing. Now, yesterday, I was even talking to my wife about this. I was telling her that it's shocking, it's puzzling even that people have stopped talking about inflation in Ghana. That is exactly what is driving the exchange rate depreciation that we see, right? And when it comes to inflation, there are certain factors that influence it: fiscal policy, monetary policy, and then trade policy. These are the three concepts that I'm going to talk about today. I'm trying to touch on everything so that as we go ahead, but I'll just leave it here and then turn it over to you if there are any questions before I continue.
All right. So I'll come back to you, but I want Zita's initial thoughts on this. I mean, because again, it's economics, but we as lay individuals who are equally analytical in other ways understand the impact of these things. So give us your lay opinion about what is currently going on in Ghana with respect to the exchange rate and the comments of the deputy minister, right? The fact that in the recent situation, he's attributing it to perennial issues that are wrong with our economy. But we'll compare going forward, right?
Yeah, no, Dr. Agana, thank you. I mean, Bernard just gave me PTSD. I felt like I was back in grad school and I don't want to go back to grad school. His entire analysis was giving me lecture and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to go back to grad school. That was such a grilling moment in my life. And I'm like, no more PhD. Even in my next life, I've told you guys, I'm not getting a PhD. I will find a rich husband and just be a beautiful wife. But on a more serious note, in the layman, like Dr. Ghana, like you said, for me, it's all about our pockets, right? $1 is to 15, $1 is to 15 cities. That's high levels of inflation. And this man, is he a minister?
Yeah, he's a deputy minister for, I don't know if it's finance or trade industry.
He's a deputy minister for finance.
Okay. So again, he has the prefix doctor, and I keep saying these doctors are giving all of us a bad name in Ghana. Like, I have been attacked because of these incompetent doctors. Everybody has a doctor, they expect us to do something and they're not working. He's talking about imports, that our country relies on import. I thought one district, one factory. Isn't the one district, one factory supposed to solve some of our importation problem? So 8 years, the key question is, what has the MPP done or put in place to ensure that we are solving our perennial reliance on what? Importation? Absolutely not. So if importation is tied to, of course, like Bernard said, amidst other factors, but this deputy finance minister is attributing this whole issue to what? Our chronic reliance on importation. Then what has been the problem? Because our vice president is an economist. He's an economist. If they know that our economy relies on importation, what have they done in the past 8 years to ensure that aspect of Ghana's economy is, being handled by domestic production? What are we producing domestically that can help us reduce our reliance on importation? I thought we are now, into agriculture, rice and all that. So why is it that Ghana is so heavily reliant on importation to the point that it is affecting the inflation rate and the depreciation of the cedi? For me, as an ordinary person, those are the key concerns. What has the government done between the time they took power, almost, this is their 8th year, so almost in the past 7.5 years, to ensure that we are curbing our reliance on importation, which will always affect the cedi when global prices, or we are in a global depression, which will affect the cedi. So what measures have they put in place, knowing that they are all brilliant economists who have attended world-class institutions across the world. That is to me my concern. So we do not care about the details. We care about, the fact that $1 is to 15 cities, and that is going to affect fuel prices. That's going to affect food prices. And for those of us who are in the diaspora, that affects our ability to, remit and our families able to survive back home. That is the details that we want to hear. I don't want to hear you talk about, we are relying on importation. You said one district, one factory. So how have the one district, one factory be channeled towards, reducing our importation? And that is the key question for me.
Yeah. Well, Zita, you make a very interesting point about how, for instance, it affects our pocketbooks as well. There's this impression that, whenever the exchange rate is worse in Ghana, we in the diaspora actually benefit. But that is quite not true, right? It will change into a higher amount, but the inflationary impact of the exchange rate would mean that you probably would even have to send money more frequently than you normally did. So if I were to send $150 to my mom, this week, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, I may have to send more because the money that she received is not going to take her far enough compared to what previously was the case, even when the exchange rate was a little bit, comparatively, the amount she received for $100 was lower. So, but our producer, I want you to bring back the screen that I shared with respect to the exchange rate, comparing the exchange rate of the different regimes.
Doc, could I just
Yes.
Remark on something that Dr. Zita said?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, definitely. So, like she was saying, what we are concerned about is the impacts, right? Not semantics anymore. What we care about is when the city is depreciating, how does that directly impact us? I mean, there's someone who thinks that I'm always talking too much because why is it that you are not in Ghana, but you're always concerned? Well, I'm sorry, but the world is a global village now, and we have families back in Ghana. We can't bring everyone here with us. It doesn't work that way, right? And then let's go to the issue of importation. It's not even, if I met the deputy finance minister today, I'll tell him that, of course, the fact that we are an import-dependent economy is one of the problems, but that is not the main problem. The fundamentals are indeed weak. And then when you people came, that was when we saw the exchange rate behaving the way it is behaving, right? So we are not going to stop talking about that whole issue. We need to hold these people accountable as Ghanaians.
Yeah, Bernard, I will lead you into that conversation with the screen that I want us to show our viewers.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you were able to share the screen, then I'll go.
So let's see it in full, and then we'll go into the specifics. Yes. So this shows a comparison of the different precedents and the rate at which the cedi depreciated against the major currencies. As you can see, it is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Kufuor's regime was about 59% depreciation, 20% between Mahama and Atamils. And then in the current regime, we're at 141%, and it's still going, right? It's not like it's stabilized. So now this leads us into the conversation about comparing regimes. Bawumia came into the political limelight, or his claim to fame in Ghana's politics was by virtue of this idea that he was a brilliant economist and somebody who was coming to kind of transform Ghana for good, given that perhaps, quote unquote, we have never seen such a smart economist put himself out to be elected into a position of decision making, right? This is Baumia's claim to fame. In fact, they even nicknamed him Walwali Adam Smith, right? And it was not a joke. I don't think they gave him that name to troll him or to make fun of him. They were actually using it to extol his qualities as an economist. as Zita mentioned before, they came up with this idea of 1D, 1F, one district, one factory. Baumia is famously, I mean, the idea that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you was a profound statement. And again, thanks to social media, we can play it over and over again. So again, I usually do not want us to engage in these generalizations where the issue becomes trivial because we are unable to point out and say this is where the blame should go. So Bernard, if you can, I mean, and I think you were going in that direction with respect to what the current administration has failed to do
Yeah.
or have done that has worsened the case as the
Right.
figures have shown us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Agana. So I'm just going to try and then link your concerns with those of Dr. Zita. Now, from the get-go, this whole 1D, 1F was a fiasco. Listen, it was, I don't know which economist would have been thinking along these lines. Let's look at the world, the world, right? Let's look at the world in its full glory. Look at the countries that have been able to change their economies through industrialization. Do you see them having fragments of factories across various sectors of their country just because they want to win political power? No, that is not how it works. There's something called comparative advantage. If you wanted to, Ghana doesn't need one district, one factory. We need about 3 giant factories that are producing things that the world needs. I'm going to take that again. We need about 3 giant factories that are producing things that the world needs. Preferably, these factories should be linked to agribusiness, and that is how we can transform our economy. And the reason I'm saying that is these factories, these one district, I know that most of them are white elephants. They don't exist, right? But let's say that for the sake of an argument, let's say that these exist. What are they going to produce, first of all? Whom are they producing for? When you think about shoes and bags, your mind goes to Italy. When you think about chocolate and banking, your mind goes to Switzerland. When you think about rugs and then carpets and automobile, your mind goes to Japan and then the United States. You need to produce something that the world needs. Look, it's not a joke. And it's almost as if private businesses, you go somewhere and then there is somebody who has a furniture company, and that is enlisted under one district, one factory. Where are we going? What exactly are you seeking to achieve? That is my question. I mean, I've always been yearning that I'll meet Baumia one-on-one, and then I'll ask him some of these questions. When you people claim that there were these fragments of factories that were under the one district, one factory, what exactly were they producing? And I would even dare say that these factories, if they are in existence, are not producing something that even Africa as a continent needs. What exactly are you producing? For whom are you producing? And what is your comparative advantage in these products and services that you are producing? That is first of all. Then I'll go back to the fact that it's the fundamentals that are weak. Our fiscal policies are weak. I like something that Muhammad said. When he comes, he's going to cut back on expenditure. It's like we've always been looking at the revenue aspect of the equation or the revenue part of the equation. Let's increase taxes, expansionary fiscal policy. Why are you not focusing on the fact that you need to cut back on expenditure? And that could save you a lot of money. All the things that Muhammad said he's going to take away from the system when he comes into power should have been taken away a long time ago. No Ghanaian, when they are on personal duty, right, gets money from the government to fuel their cars or to enjoy movie allowances, travel allowances, and all of that. So that is, you see, that's what I was trying to say from the onset, that the exchange rate problem is a complex, interconnected problem with a lot of facets. I mean, I think you from the outline that you sent me, you were also going to talk about the Attorney General's case. And I'm going to link that to the fact that institutions are very instrumental in the development of a country. right? So I'm not going to go further into this,
Okay.
but
Okay.
that's all that I can say about this whole one district, one F, and then the implications for the exchange rate regime. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, Zita, you have to forgive me that most of the questions today are going to Bernard because, I mean, for the first time we have an economist on the show, and I want us to really utilize his presence here. Now, this is the excuse that the Minister for Finance, producer, if you could show, yes, this is what the Minister of Finance said with respect to the current misbehavior of the currency, in that because of these payments being made, it's impacted the exchange rate. I mean, what is the truth to this statement, and is that really a good excuse, Bernard?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Agana, once again. So he's saying that they paid 49 billion cedis to contractors and independent power
Independent power
producers,
producers,
and
yes.
then
So
the
the
general
finance
population.
minister, let me just read it. Perhaps people are listening and they haven't seen it.
Yes.
So
yes,
the finance
please.
minister, Mohammed Amin Adam, blames the depreciation of the cedi on the payment of 49 billion cedis to contractors, independent power producers, and the general speculation around the currency. So he says, okay, so the speculation is not a payment, but is that because of speculation, people perhaps are buying the dollar and making it more scarce.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So thank you so much once again. Now, speculative attacks, that has always existed, especially in a fixed exchange rate regime. I was going to go there from the beginning, but I think I can touch on those as we go along.
Yeah.
In the fixed exchange rate regime, we have something called arbitrages. And these arbitrages, all they do is the kind of business that is done at Cantamanto: buy low, sell high, because the exchange rate is fixed. That's basically all that they do. And then let's not regale ourselves. Those allergies that we see who are operating the black market, they have a lot of money because they understand the fundamentals of every economy. And those are the people that he was talking about. Now, because of speculative attacks in the past, it has led countries like Panama, Zimbabwe to go with dollarization, adapting the dollar as their currency with the assistance of currency boards. If you are saying this is the reason why we are seeing the exchange rates, in my mind, if I look at this 49 billion Ghana cedis, that is about $3 billion, right? And if as a country, $3 billion going out of your reserves is able to affect your exchange rates to this extent, then I think it goes back to the same problem already, that the fundamentals are weak. In a nutshell, this statement that the finance minister made, Dr. Amin, I find it a little bit disingenuous again. Because, first of all, how is it that contractors have been working over years and you've not made provisions to pay these people? That is where the fundamentals come in again. And if, I'll state this again, if $3 billion, right, going out of your coffers is driving the exchange rate by almost a move from around 11 point something all the way to 15 within a space of 15 days, 15 business working days. That is terrible. That is terrible. So it has got nothing to do with the payments that are going out. They should just admit it, that they've not managed the economy very well. Let's go back to COVID. When COVID happened, do you know the amount that the IMF gave to Ghana in the special drawing rights account? About $3 billion. What happened to that money? You didn't know that you had to pay contractors at that time? What happened to that money? What happened to the money from the World Bank? What happened to all these monies that the world gave Ghana? You didn't know that you had to pay this. As an economist, from where I sit, you've gotten $3 billion free money. You didn't have to pay it back. What was wrong with you taking $1 billion of that money, identifying the entrepreneurs in the country, those who were actually doing well, giving them a loan of $50,000 each, and asking them or tasking them that within the space of 3 or 4 years, you should be employing at least 5 people? that is how you tackle some of the issues that a country, every typical country faces. What happened to it? Nobody knows, and there has been no accounting to the ordinary Ghanaian on how some of these monies were spent. So this is not the time for you to come and then tell us that you paid contractors and there are speculative attacks, and that is the reason why we are seeing a depreciation of the exchange rate. Okay. No, it goes back to that statement that the vice president made, that indeed the fundamentals are weak, and you people have even weakened the fundamentals further since you've been in power from 2017. Thank you.
Okay, so Bernard, I mean, all that I've gotten from what you have said so far, as somebody who I'm more of like a systems thinker, and so what I've come to understand is that essentially these problems are systemic. Right. And it's just with other problems that we have in Ghana, the systems and institutions that would have to come together more or less like a jigsaw puzzle to work, let everything work together, are broken.
Yes.
And then we will touch here, without ever thinking of these things in a more uniform or in a more systemic form. And so we obviously we've seen the differences between the two regimes. Again, I don't want us to delve into trivialities, the trivial conversation of generalization, but let's put the blame where it belongs. This government has been a disappointment. But so, Bazita, with your concluding remarks on this matter, so that we can move to the next topic. I understand that you're not an economist.
I thought you were going to play the video on Dr. Bawumia talking about using commodity like the gold to support the depreciation of the cedi. I thought you were going to play that.
Yeah, I think he had the gold for oil thing, and then
using gold as I'm going to conclude on that perspective.
Yeah.
Using gold.
Okay, we'll come to the Bawumia tape towards the end. The tape of him speaking at the CEO's meeting versus Mahama, and then we would. I think it would be along similar lines as the issues that we're just talking about here. But yes, whatever your position is on this matter, that'll be good.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that, and it's part of his key campaign to create a minerals investment bank that will focus on helping the extractive sector in terms of how to ensure that he's proposing that creating a minerals investment bank and commodifying the gold will ensure that the cedi does not depreciate. I respect Dr. Bawumia for getting a PhD, but I think his thinking process is all the way wrong. Like I said, I wrote my master's thesis on Ghana's extractive sector, and I looked at Ghana's Mining Act. Now, when you look at the 2006 Mining Act, key issues here that I don't think Bawumia has really looked at is the fact that, first of all, when you look at small-scale mining, that is where he was looking at, but he also, again, interplays between mining organizations, which I think he's conflating large-scale mining and small-scale mining. But he's proposing using artisanal mining or small-scale mining as a way to peg the depreciation of the cedi. First of all, we need to understand that the regulatory processes for registering, getting a mining lease for small-scale mining is very cumbersome. They don't have access to geological services. We also, the biggest issue with small-scale mining in Ghana is the issue of the customary understanding of land and land ownership, because lands come under the lands are, the chiefs and the kings are the custodians of the land, and nobody technically owns it. But when you look at the Constitution of Ghana, it is saying that lands are, under the jurisdiction of the government. And so it is always that issue of, is it the customary understanding of land or the constitutional understanding of land usage and ownership? That is where the clash happens, and then you have people engaging in these forms of illegal mining. Also, when it comes to the small mining sector, we have to talk about environmental impact, because they use mercury, and mercury kind of dissipates into the water bodies, and that to a large extent what affects the health. And so when we have a learned colleague who would take a microphone and boldly say that to address the depreciation of the cedi, we are going to commodify gold as a way of curbing it? My key question is, has he really looked at Ghana's mining sector? Has he taken a holistic and a critical look at even the small scale mining sector? How they operate? If they have any forms of support, what are the challenges in them getting a mining lease to be able to mine, well, and what are some of the ways to curb environmental challenges associated with mining? I'm sorry to say this, but as somebody who is on social media a lot, I feel that our politicians understand that most Ghanaians are not, they don't look into these details. The ordinary Ghanaian will not take the Ghana Mining Act to read it, to understand how things work. So when you have people in positions like Dr. Bawumia make such a statement, everybody say, oh, it's a feasible idea, but they don't understand the details of how this thing works. And that is how I'm going to conclude. I just feel like he's grasping on straws. As a learned colleague, I think these kind of policy measures to curb the cedi are unrealistic. They are far-fetched. You need to look at Ghana's mining sector. We do have gold, but there's a lot of reforms that need to happen in Ghana's mining sector to be able to position us so that we can leverage, gold as a way of making sure our city does depreciate. And that is where I'm going to end. Unfortunately, I don't think the average Ghanaian will get up and go online and say, I want to read Ghana's Mining Act. If Bawumia is proposing that we're going to use gold to arrest the city, let me look at Ghana's Mining Act. Let me see how small miners operate. How much revenue does the sector generate? What is the infiltration of foreigners? Because foreigners are not supposed to engage in small scale mining, but they do. How would these things be curbed so that it becomes a powerful sector to help us address the city? The ordinary Ghanaian is not into details. People are hungry. People want their problem solved. And I think Bawumia gets up, takes a microphone, and begin to just make these proclamations without careful thought. And unfortunately, the ordinary person is not learned enough to catch that he's making, unfounded and baseless policy proclamations.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, look, this is something that has been recognized in the democracy, even in the ancient times, where, the ordinary person is not equipped, not because they don't have the intellect to engage in these types of, or to understand the insincerity in some of the proposals of politicians, but it's because they just don't have the time. They don't have the leisure time to go about looking into some of these things, right? And I think we here are fulfilling that responsibility for them by catching some of these dishonest promises and really making them more simplified so that the general public can catch on to them as well. So, but let's move on to another issue that has bedeviled our politics, which has to do with sole sourcing, the tendency of, people in positions of power to award contracts to whoever they wish without allowing it to go through the proper tendering process, and perhaps the deserving companies win these contracts, and then we can be sure that there's going to be high quality in the job that they give us. So let's hear from Nana Akufo-Addo as an opposition leader with respect to this matter, and then we come to the main issue, or the issue that has sort of ignited this conversation to begin with.
Anytime there's a public works of a certain size, then it should be won through a tendering process. If you're going to do it through sole sourcing, you've already lost one part of the handle on the fight against corruption. So the law is in place. But whether are you going to implement it or not? Yes. You'll make the clear decision. You're going to implement it. You're going to make the tendering for public works, public businesses, the norm, not the exception. The last 5 years, we've seen the thing turn the other way around, where virtually everything that is being done by the state is being done through a process of sole sourcing. Obviously, immediately, a very important handrail in the fight against corruption has been loosened. We are going to restore the tendering process to make sure that unless there are stringent reasons why the procurement process should end up in a sole sourcing, tendering becomes the norm, not the exception. I think you will see from that straight away the impact that it will have on our public finances. We're going to be able to save much more. We're going to get much more value for doing business than what we're getting at the moment, which has brought this atmosphere or reality of widespread corruption in our system. So the laws are in place. Are you going to be able to implement them? I think that one of the things that has come up, which has caused a great deal of discussion, is the position of the Attorney General in the fight against corruption. Most people have now come to the conclusion that an Attorney General in a party system of government, may be in a difficult place when it comes to potentially prosecuting fellow ministers. Mm-hmm. I don't happen to agree with that thinking, because when I was Attorney General, I authorized the prosecution of a fellow minister, but that's another story. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, public opinion in Ghana is of the view that we need some.
Okay, so
yeah, at any time there's a.
Okay, all right. So I mean, Nana Addo as opposition leader, we heard his comments. He says a lot of things in that video that we would compare to what is currently the case. Now, what brought about this conversation is the fact that the Ministry for Communication and Digitalization awarded a contract to Next Gen Infraco, and apparently this company was only formed about 2 weeks or so before the contract was awarded. And also, it did not go through the right tendering process. Now, I mean, just compare that to what the current president, who then was the main opposition leader, just said in that video. Now, again, he says something after that, which has to do with the position of the Attorney General and as to whether they have the willpower to prosecute their colleague ministers who are found to be corrupt. He says he disagrees and that he led the prosecution of a certain minister when he was Attorney General during the Kufuor administration. And now, who is this person? That was Malam Issa, who was prosecuted for causing financial loss to the state. Malam, if you guys would recall, Malam Issa was the Minister for Youth and Sports. And I think Ghana was traveling to play a match somewhere. And they had some winning bonuses for the players. And somehow that money got missing in transit. And so when they got back to Ghana, they prosecuted him for causing financial loss to the state. Malam Issa was not a dyed-in-the-wool MPP member. He was a member of one of the opposition parties, the People's National Convention. But in the 2000 election, the NPP formed a coalition with some of these other smaller opposition parties. And that's how come Malam Issa became a minister. It was more or less a token being given to these other political parties for supporting them in the second round of the election. So, I mean, it was easy to sacrifice Malam Issa because he wasn't one of them. So that is what he's claiming that he did as Attorney General. But now we've seen him in action as minister, and has a single minister been prosecuted under this administration. In fact, he's popularly known as the clearing agent, right? Even in glaring cases of corruption, he finds a way of clearing them. So anyway, I mean, again, let's talk about Ursula Wusu's justification for awarding this contract to a company that was formed only 2 weeks prior to the award of their contract. Well, Nee just joined us, and I'm sure you've been following this story. So if you can give us a little bit of commentary. But anyway, Nee is an assistant professor of actuarial science at Appalachian State University. He's one of our regular panelists, but he had to join us late today.
Yeah, Chairman, thank you. Sorry for being late today.
Nee, you are going to make me get used to Bernard, eh? Don't do that.
I had to come in late today. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So, Chairman, with the 5G thing, the story again, as I mentioned last time, it's all about the trend, right? This is a huge contract that we're trying to we are trying to give this contract to a company, just like the SML situation, a company that was formed a week before the everything became public. Like, so you sometimes you ask yourself, why do they keep doing this? And there are a lot of companies already established that can, with the experience and the technical know-how to handle whatever we need from this 5G infrastructure, but they decided to give it to a new company. The idea is it's like this company will be the gateway, so everybody has to go through this company, and it's just another way, another avenue for create loot and share, and it's sad, and that's the reality of this government, and that's the trend, right? We've seen situations where SML, the company, did not have the experience. It was kind of like a company from a timber processing or whatever, and they came into whatever GRA doing the work that GRA can do. So again, it's just the same strategy, the same playbook, and they are using to create another avenue to just pay themselves money.
Okay.
And
All right.
yes.
Yeah. All right. So Bernard will have to leave us very soon, but I would like him to have his word on this matter. How can a company formed in 2 weeks be awarded such a monumental contract? How are they going to get the job done? Do they have history in in this industry? Like, don't you need some level of experience or demonstration of having a track record in the area in order to win such a monumental contract?
Thank you so much. Hey, Dr. Neil Kai. Unfortunately, when I joined, you were not here. Nice to meet you. So what I can say about this is I don't even like the fact that you guys are referring to it as a contract. This is corruption. Let's call it what it is, to be honest. How do you award a contract to a company that was formed just about 2 weeks ago? In what world are you operating? Let's go back to the video that you played. When I was listening to the video, all I heard was the voice of desperation. I really like the Ghanaian people, I do. But unfortunately, I feel sad for them that they couldn't see through the sham that this man was. Everything that he was saying was out of desperation. Everything. And my problem with His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has always been his posturing. He struts around as if the country owes he and his family something, and that if he didn't become president, then all hell would have to break loose. That has always been my position. Now, going back to this issue, this is someone, and I'm going to talk about Godfrey Dame. I mean, even before I even talk about that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, if you ask me if he should even be in jail right now, my answer would be as easy as finding your nose in complete darkness. Trust me, he should be there. And the reason is this issue has personal importance to me because I know the impact of institutions in nation building. I'm going to circle back to this issue of awarding the contract to this company that was formed a week ago. But ask yourself, if you picked up your phone and you Google rate of returns on investments in Ghana, it's going to tell you 60%. In the US, it's 10%. But why do you think someone would rather invest their money in the US rather than Ghana? The answer is institutions. If anybody asks me this, my simple answer is going to be institutions. And when we talk about economic institutions, we are talking about the delineation of property rights, We are talking about a dependable legal system, of which Godfrey Dame should be sacked. The main reason why I think he should be sacked. We are talking about political stability. We are talking about open and competitive markets. We are talking about an honest government. Where is the honest government in all of this? The reason why somebody would rather invest their money in Ghana, in the US rather than Ghana, is that they know that there's no enforcement of property rights in Ghana. The economic systems do not work. And look at us as a country. We are already hemorrhaging our skilled people. All of us here. I don't think if we had a place and a space in Ghana, we would hesitate to go back and help. But this is the reality. We are losing all our brilliant and skilled people to other countries, first of all. And now we are also hemorrhaging private capital because we don't have well-functioning economic systems or well-functioning economic institutions. And this is what an attorney general does at the end of the day. So who is going to want to invest in Ghana? It's my question. Now I'll go back to this issue of the sole sourcing. In what world do you award a contract? Where are the checks and balances? Sometimes I tell people that we are in an autocracy. We are being ruled by a despot. We just haven't accepted it yet. In what world do you award a contract of this magnitude to a company that was formed barely 2 weeks ago? How does that even work? Is there a law that permits him, like he was talking about the law and the exception? Is there any law that allows him to even do this? Those are some of the questions that are posed to them. But as far as that I'm concerned, I think that the minority in parliament, they shouldn't allow this deal to go through. I don't know the stage that this deal.
No, I think it's already in operation. It's just that it was caught recently. That's what had happened prior to. Basically, the contract has been awarded. This company is already working.
They're already working on the contract.
Right? Yeah, they basically caught it. Right? Am I right?
Yeah. Yes. And again, the contract is for like 10 years. Like you are giving this whatever 5G spectrum, whatever, to one company for 2 weeks ago for 10 years. Why is this thing not sitting at the NCA so that whoever wants to benefit it will go and pay some fees to get it? But you've given it to a company to do that. What's going on?
So where is the turning process that Akufo-Addo spoke about is going to be the law and not the exception? That is my question. How? And then this is not the first time. Baumia said that the deal that Mahama had entered into with Ameri, that deal didn't make sense. Just passed behind Ghanaians and increased that deal by 15 years. This is not the first time. So now that, like Dr. Ghana said, and then Dr. Neokan intimated, it looks like there's nothing that can be done at this stage of the game. But what I'm going to suggest as a solution is that if it happens and by the special grace of God, the NDC comes into power, they have to revisit this deal and make sure that the right thing is done. Because this is just people looting. This is state capture. It's nothing but state capture. That is what is going on in Ghana right now. And they are trying to do so many things within the 6 months that they have left. Where are we heading as a country? I guess. And the problem is just being compounded day after day. You have people on one end of the spectrum, and then it's like a cesspool of people just living in misery. And then there is one section of people who are awarding contracts to themselves for 10 years. And that circle seems to expand at the expense of the people on the other side of the fence. Where are we heading as a country? And then people see this. I was arguing with someone literally yesterday that it's unfair that when the NDC is in power, that's when Ghanaians know to hold the government accountable. Yeah. But it's exactly the opposite when the NPP is in power. Are we seeking the development and then the growth of the country, or we are seeking to treat one party fairly than the other? That will be the end of my submission today on this whole issue.
Yeah.
And
anyway, yes.
I was going to say, okay.
But let me just, Bernard, I mean, thank you very much for joining us. I know you have to go on the hour.
Yes.
And yeah, so look, it's been fabulous having you on today, and I hope you were able to join us again. I will talk to you later in private, and then make sure that you become a permanent part of this show. I think
Sure.
your
Definitely,
contribution on this
definitely. Thank you
content.
guys so much.
Yes.
I never imagined I could be in the presence of greatness within the twinkling of an eye. Thank you guys so much. I hope to see you next week,
Yeah,
the same time, and then hopefully we'll be able to start early and then have everybody so that we bring
Yeah,
together.
next week, I promise you, we'll all be on the show at the same time.
Sure. Dr. Zita, Dr. Okai, and then Dr.
Brad,
Agani.
it's been
I'll talk to you
amazing.
guys
So
later.
which team are you supporting in the Champions League final?
Oh man, everybody loves the underdog. So Dortmund. I want Dortmund
Well,
to
me,
win.
Ancelotti is my guy. Look, I've declared Ancelotti the best coach in the world almost 14 years ago.
Oh wow.
And people argue with me, but the guy has
Madrid as a
proven
team, they've just won the cup so many times.
that. Yeah,
I
I mean,
think.
for me, Ancelotti is my guy, so I can't go against him. All right, Bernard.
Okay,
So
may the best team
let's,
win. Thank you guys so much, and then I'll see you next week. Thank you.
all right, absolutely.
Okay, bye bye.
Yeah. All right, bye. All right, so guys, okay. I mean, Zita, what's your position on this matter?
I mean,
Yes.
it was giving me PTSD on the last week situation on the SML. Like, I think needed touch on it. It's just like, these companies just pop up. They are not vetted properly. There's no proven record of having administered and managed similar project. And for some reason, they're supposed to deliver. And like Bernard just said, it seems this seems to be a state capture. This seems to be, we need to grab what we can grab before, our tenure comes to an end in December 2024. The NPP understands that there's no way, unless they put a gun to our heads, that's the only way they can win that elections, because their track record is not what it's supposed to be. So for me, again, it just feels like the SML deal that happened with the GRA that we were talking about last week. We need stronger institutions, tendering process. We need an independent body. If anybody is submitting, a bid for a contract, we need to vet their organization properly. We need to have them publicly. We need to say, these are the list of tenders. These are their backgrounds. Put it up in the news or something. Make it public information and let us know their track record and if they have the ability to administer and manage, a project of this magnitude, because they need to have done it in the past. But for us to have, and it's always the selective amnesia of these MPP guys. When they're in opposition, they see everything wrong and they promise us they will do better. Now that they have the opportunity, theirs is worse. How can an organization that is started 2 weeks ago or founded 2 weeks ago be able to even have the capacity and the audacity to tender for a contract?
What happened is that I think they put the company together
Yes.
just for the purpose of that contract.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, so it's not like the company existed and got wind of or maybe a group got wind of the potential contract and decided to form a company. The formation of the company itself was for the purpose of being awarded this contract.
And again, they are trying to benefit from an inside information. Same thing for the hotel thing, right? A minister benefiting from an insider information that, oh, this hotel is there, they want to sell it. Let me talk to somebody. They put me as the what in front, and I get a hotel. Same strategy here. They know the 5G infrastructure is coming. We are setting it up. Oh, by the way, why don't we set up a company and get all the benefit from it? That's all they're thinking about. I don't understand why this thing cannot be with the NCA. What is the national communication? What are they doing? Why can't they have this right, so that every money that comes in goes to the government and every citizen of Ghana benefit? Why can't it go that way? I just don't get it. And you're giving it 10 years. It means that you're setting the next governor up. If it's NDC, what you are doing is that you're setting them up for a judgment debt if they cancel the contract. So they've really thought about this. And that's why they're giving them 10 years. It's not even 2 years, so 10 years exclusivity. So that means that it's only the company that has the right to say, you can benefit from you can benefit, or if you want to have access to 5G, you have to go through this company. Basically, that's it.
Yeah. So now, and the thing for me, with respect to these, the improper award of contracts, or just awarding contracts on the whim of whoever is in position of power, is the fact that people cannot build sustainable businesses in Ghana. Look, I know a lot of contractors growing poor, and these used to be perhaps the middle class and upper class in our societies. Not to say that that is particularly a good thing, but there were people that built a business over decades, and it was showing for itself. Their status in society was as a result of the work that they had put in their business for decades. And so when there would be a new contract, they already have the experience and the infrastructure to take on these contracts and deliver them to the highest standard of quality. But the trend that we are observing these days is that people form companies based on who comes into power. Your party comes into power, all of a sudden you become a contractor. And because of your association with the party, you are able to win a contract. You don't have to show a track record of having done something similar, right? You apply for a job, you have to show a CV, you have some experience, and then they give you the job. In our case, that experience doesn't count. People's years of work doesn't mean anything in Ghana. Your experience doesn't mean anything because the guy who has the political connection is the one that is going to get the contract. So how are you going to build sustainable business in the country? How can a business grow such that they will become big employers? That is not very likely. So, I mean, besides the corruption aspect of these awarding contracts in this manner, I think the other negative impact is the fact that we cannot build businesses that are sustainable, that will become alternative employers to government. And at the end of the day, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. You know, we keep talking about systems, but when is it going to change? The systems are not going to change themselves. It has to take a ruling party to change the system. And that's why we will continue to blame whoever is in power. The power lies with you as the sitting government to change the systems that would make these things work as they should. Right. So, I mean, Zita, I don't know if you are yeah, I think you addressed this issue. You had a say on it, right? So again, well, I mean, there's a Champions League finals. You know, I'm sure most of our audience would also be engaged in that as well, and knowing that Nee is a soccer fan, I don't want him to miss one of the biggest events in the soccer calendar today. So we'll end here.
You see how you don't do things with men. I'm so glad I don't have a man at this point. Because, listen, y'all cutting the program short because y'all want to go watch soccer. I keep saying it. Listen, I have some champagne and wine. I'm just gonna drink and wine because if I have a man, I'll be frustrated. Like, babe, why are we not supposed to be doing some Netflix and chill? That I want to watch the Champions League.
Lita, when the Zitarians are doing their matches and we'll join.
We are bombing all the men. I'm getting on the Zitarians. I'm going on TikTok live right now. Zitarians, deal with all your men. They are leaving us to go watch the soccer. No, ladies.
Well, this is one of the hazards of being a man. You know, well. But anyway, we're only doing this for our viewers who may be occupied, you know. So it's not really for us. But I believe the people who should be watching this show are going to be occupied with that event as well. So in order not to create a conflict, we want to satisfy our viewers. So we want to give them the opportunity to go, watch the game. In fact, it's not really for us, but yeah.
Yeah, you sound like a politician, Dr. Adani. Clearly giving me Baumia
That
vibes.
sounds like a
Giving me
politician.
Baumia vibes at this point.
Anyway, well, yeah, I mean, so I think as usual, time flies so it flies by so fast whenever we start the show. Um, and yeah, we missed Nee in the beginning, but I think overall we had a nice conversation, and yeah, so
Yeah.
I wish you guys all the best,
Yeah.
a good rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right.
guys, enjoy your soccer. I'm not even
All
going
right.
to bother calling my brothers because I know one is a Chelsea fan and the one is Manchester United. So I know
Their
they
teams are
won't,
not playing, but yeah, but they will
but
probably
they
have
will
an
still want to
interest in
watch
the
anyway to
game.
just follow the league. So I'm not even going to bother. So y'all enjoy your soccer. Go easy on the beer. And I hope your respective teams come on top at the end of the league.
Zita, when the Zitarians are matching, we are with them. Don't worry.
Esawara. Who
All
knew
right.
Esawara? All right, y'all.
You let a yum 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 yum. Naya pere, matinaya pese. You let a yum 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 yum.